There's somebody in your life you need to forgive. Somebody betrayed you, done you dirty, done you wrong. Somebody hurt you, hurt your family, hurt somebody you know. Can I tell you something? Unforgiveness is a self-imposed prison. Nobody wants to spend their life in prison. In life, you can get bitter or you can get better. So I'm encouraging you today not to react to the bad things that happen to you in your life, but to respond.
Boom. What's up, YouTube? It's your boy Kabongo from ELiANDA, and I have a very special guest with me today. If you could introduce yourself, sir.
Hey, absolutely. I'm so excited about us hanging out and be together today. I'm Joe Roberts, and I'm actually the lead pastor at Connection Point Ministries here at the in Abilene at the YMCA. We're talking about every Sunday, 10:30, casual and contemporary, hanging out, having a great time. And I'm excited about being together today.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I wanted Joe to come on here and not only talk to you guys about Connection Point, but not only that, we're going to be speaking about a very good topic. Today, we're going to be speaking about forgiveness.
Right.
But Joe, could you tell them a little bit more about Connection Point and what Connection Point is?
Yeah, Connection Point is a brand new church here in Abilene. And as a matter of fact, we're 8 months old. We launched on Easter of 2023. That was April the 9th, 2023. And we have our student ministries on Wednesday nights, every Wednesday at 6:30 at the TLCA campus, the old YMCA campus. It is so awesome. That's junior high and high school students. I'm talking about it's an awesome place.
Yes,
Any
sir.
students, come hang out with us. You'll see for yourself.
Yep.
Kids ministries, nurseries, families, great worship services every Sunday at 10:30 here at the YMCA. Like we said, casual, contemporary, every time. And would love for you to come and check us out. Connection Point's a special place. We're not into religion. I'm going to be honest with you. Religion has done nothing but harm to the cause of Christ. Matter of fact, it was the religious people that wanted to get rid of Jesus and ultimately had him arrested and crucified. But he came back. That's right, the Pharisees, those religious people.
Yep.
We're not, no religious people here. If you're religious, you go to church somewhere else, right? We're about a relationship. We're about a relationship with Jesus Christ, knowing that He's Lord and Savior in your life. I can remember when I was younger that my greatest need was Jesus. That He died for me, He rose again, and that without Him I'm lost, right? And so I realized that. And it's like as easy as ABC. Acknowledge your need for Christ. Believe. I believe that He died for me, that He rose again, that Jesus is God. And then you confess, right?
Confess, yes, sir.
And I came to that point in my life. I said, Jesus, please forgive me of my sin. Come into my heart to be my Savior. I surrendered my life to Him. And He did. He saved. And that was my connection point, with Him. And that's the life that I have in Christ. And so it's cool. Connection Point is it's a great place. And you just have to check it out for yourself.
Yes, sir. But yeah, like he was telling you guys should definitely come through every single Sunday at 10:30 at Red Bull YMCA. Or if you guys have any kids or really any high school kids in at all, come to TLCA every single Wednesday at 6:30. We would love to have you guys. But yeah, so now we can hop into what we're going to be talking about. So last week, we actually have a men's Bible study at Mad Coffee. If you guys ever want to show up, we would love to have you guys.
Yeah, Tuesday nights?
Yeah, Tuesday nights.
At 6:30 at Mad Coffee.
Yep, you guys should pull up. And last week, we actually talked about a certain person in the Bible who was Joseph. And Joseph's story is so interesting because as soon as we started talking about it, I wanted to learn more about his life. And so Joseph had a calling that he knew nothing about at the beginning. But in the beginning, God gave him little glimpses, of what was to come. But he never truly got the full picture, But today we're going to be talking about a different perspective on Joseph's life, right? So in the beginning, God gave him a glimpse that he had a dream. And he told his brothers and his whole family about the dream. He said, one day I will rule over you guys and all of you guys will bow down to me. And his brothers got envious of him. They got jealous. And what did they do? They ended up plotting against him, right?
Horrible, man. What a family, right? You think your family has drama?
Literally.
This family has some serious
drama. And mind you, he had, 9 other brothers, right? He was the 10th one at that time. And so they ended up plotting against him to really kill him. So that, because his dad, who is Israel, or otherwise known as Jacob, loved Joseph. And he loved Joseph maybe a little bit more than the others. And he wasn't scared to show it.
Yeah, he probably shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, he wasn't scared to show it. So he made Joseph a coat, right? And when his brothers seen that, they got jealous. And so, like we said, they plotted against him. And so they pretty much ended up throwing him in a ditch. But they ended up thinking, this isn't enough. Let's just kill the guy. But one of the brothers was like, no, we can't do that. We can't do that. So they ended up just deciding to sell him to Egypt, right? But let's just speak about that. Just that first scene. Just how would you feel if you were in that situation?
Can you? Okay, how many of you have ever been stabbed in the back?
Yes.
Right? You told somebody something, you said, don't tell anybody, and they say, okay, I'll never tell anybody. And they tell just one person. Well, that one person tells one person. I mean, we know we're betrayal. You know, but we're not talking about somebody sharing a secret. We're talking about your own brothers betraying you to the point of they're plotting to murder you, to kill you.
Yep.
You know, I'll be honest with you, that's a whole nother level of hatred.
Yep, that's true.
And to know that your brothers hate you, and you walk up on a scene, and ultimately, like Kingston Kamongo said, there's 10, there was 12. Ultimately, he had some younger ones that come along later, and your brothers are like, man, let's kill him.
Yeah. And
I can't imagine that. Like, the hurt, honestly, we can laugh about it, but the hurt, I feel like we all know how deep betrayal can run. And in this case for Joseph, there had to be some hurt.
Yeah, he had to be
hurt and feel anger.
Yeah.
Put him in a pit, gonna kill him. And then they said, okay, let's just sell him. And that was like, in that day and age, you're talking about Old Testament, right?
Yep.
We're talking about Old Testament. They sold him to what's called slave traders. That would go around, pick up people, take them to Egypt, which was like the place, right?
Yep.
And they would have an auction. Horrible. I mean, nowhere in the world is there room for that.
Yep.
And they would sell them into slavery to never see their family again.
True.
Never. Most died. Most would survive a few years, and ultimately, I mean, you're far from home.
True.
It's not like they got their phones, get the GPS out, and see how to get escape and get back home. I mean, they're lost. Hopelessness is a bad place to be.
That's true.
I don't want that to be my address.
That's true. Yep. But like you said, anger, like confusion, all these different emotions were going through him. And mind you, this is their youngest brother.
Yeah.
So like him being young, I can only imagine me being at his age, and if my brothers did that to me, I'd be extremely angry at them, right?
Well, yeah.
But like God,
who don't want to get even?
Yeah, that is true.
Right? I mean, come on.
Yep. And that just shows already like God was trying to teach him something off the rip. But like as he's being sold, right, he ends up getting sold to Potiphar. And Potiphar is one of the high-ranking people in that community.
Yes,
because
in Egypt.
And he worked for Pharaoh, right? But when he was working for Potiphar, God blessed Joseph through that. Because God seen something in Joseph that others didn't. And so God ended up putting Joseph in a position in Potiphar's household where he was running pretty much the whole household.
Which was unheard of.
Yep.
Listen, it's such a negative connotation, but the dude was a slave, right? And slaves never even got within throwing distance of the master's house.
Yep.
But Joseph stood out above all the rest. And Potiphar he was a man of authority because he wasn't an idiot.
Yep.
Dude was smart, knew what he was doing, and knew how to get things done.
Yep.
Right? He sees in Joseph a quality that's unmistakable when you see it in a person. It's called character, integrity, a work ethic, but then at that time he didn't know exactly what it was, but the hand of God. Everything Joseph did or touched, turned to gold.
That's true.
He was still away from his home, away from his family. God had a plan, shared it with him, but like you said, he didn't get it. He didn't understand all of that.
Yeah.
He just was dealing with this anger and hurt and betrayal in his life. But even when you're hurt, I've always told people, even when you're struggling and you don't know what to do, I hear people, I don't know what to do. Stop. Know that God's still working.
Yep.
And then do what you know to be right.
That's true.
Do what Joseph didn't know what to do, so he stayed focused on Christ and in his relationship with God, and he knew it was right to do right and to work hard.
That's true.
So what did he do?
He did
that. Right and worked hard.
He did that.
And God blessed that. It wasn't anything magic about Joseph. He had a great work ethic. He worked hard. He did well. But it was God blessing him and the favor of God upon his life. But Joseph had to do his part.
Yep, he did. And he did his part well because Potiphar ended up putting him in such a high-ranking position. But, the story switches real quickly because Potiphar's wife ends up looking at Joseph in a very
She's checking
way.
him out,
She was
man.
checking him out, right? And
he
Joseph,
was a hot dude, young
Yeah.
dude, man. And she's like, "Come here, baby, give me some sugar."
Yep. But Joseph was like, "No, I do not want her." No. And he made it very clear to her over and over, like, "Hey, I don't want to do this. It'll be wrong in the eyes of God, but not only that, to Potiphar as well."
Yeah, and to you. He was even thinking of her. He goes, "I can't do this to you."
That is
and she
true.
said, "You could do anything to me."
Yeah, she didn't care.
Oh my goodness.
She was ready to risk it all just for the moment, right?
Yeah.
But eventually she ends up just trying to come onto him and just sleep with him, and Joseph ends up running out the house.
Yeah.
But
I always say, run, baby, run.
He ran out the house butt naked, right? But when he ran out, she kept his clothing because she was holding on to him so tightly.
Fighting.
Yeah, she was trying to fight him, and she ended up lying on Joseph, right?
Mhm.
And once again,
That he came in here and tried to rape me. Look what you've done, Potiphar. You brought this. You brought this guy into our house. You gave him authority. Look what he did. He came in here and tried to rape me.
Yep.
Oh my goodness.
And Potiphar had no choice but to believe his wife because that's his wife, right? But once again, God is putting Joseph once again in a position where he could get angry. He could be hurt. He could be very hateful and bitter. But like God, so Joseph ends up going to jail, prison.
Yeah,
for a
prison.
long time. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. It's like round 1.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then there was like round 2, 3, 4, 5. This is like round 6.
Round 6.
And here we go, Joseph. Here we go again,
Boom.
right?
Mm-hmm.
He lived through his brother's betrayal.
Mm-hmm.
And now, the dude's innocent.
Yep.
Right? He hasn't done anything wrong.
Has not done.
And,
anything wrong.
at some point, when does a person say, God, what is going on?
Mhm.
But he didn't do that. He kept his head up
Yep.
in prison. And it wasn't just, at first, any prison. I'm talking about, like, he's like in the worst part of the prison. Get rid of him, out of sight, out of mind, unheard. And worst part of the prison, but God was still with him.
God was still with him. And I feel like in those times where God was putting Joseph through the valleys, God was teaching Joseph different things, and God was molding Joseph into the person he had to become.
Yeah.
Because I feel like when Joseph was on the mountains, God was allowing him to be on those mountains to kind of forget about what just happened, because he just went through a lot, right? His brothers betraying him, to Potiphar's wife lying on him. But him being in the valley, God is like, hey, okay, Joseph, I need you to learn how to handle these emotions, but not only that, I need you to grow.
Yeah.
And I feel like truly, it wasn't until Joseph got into prison, that's where God just started to work miracles in Joseph's life, truly. Because when he was in Potiphar's house, yes, he had power, yes, he had authority, but I don't think God was working on him like the way he was working on him in prison.
Oh, yeah. And, God wants you to know that in your darkest, most terrible places in your life, God wants us to know he's still with us.
Yep.
And it wasn't God that, sitting in the prison, but God is a God that will use every situation, every circumstance, even the prison times of your life, figuratively speaking, to let you know he's with you.
Yep.
And then continue to shape you and mold you to know that he has a calling on your life. That, we're not fast forwarding, but the things that God had for Joseph to do, it was not some little deal. It wasn't like, hey, can you take the trash out? We're talking about the duty and the ministry and the things that were still ahead of Joseph. It was not a little task. It was big, and God had to prepare him for that.
Yep, that he did. And once again, God blesses Joseph while he's in prison, because once again, God sees something in Joseph that others don't. And it's that leadership quality that Joseph just always had since a child. And, just to go backwards for a second, Joseph was a shepherd. And I don't know about you guys, but I see something that God loves shepherds in a sense. Because, a shepherd, like you were talking about last Tuesday, it's kind of like a job that they just give to, the person that, it's just like, go do that.
Yeah.
It's kind of like just get him out of here type of job. But him being a shepherd showed him real quickly, I got to learn how to take care of things.
Yeah.
I gotta care.
Exactly, right? Little things matter to God.
And it put him at a very servant mindset since the beginning, because he had to take care of the sheep. And like Kyle was talking about last Wednesday, sheep are not very smart.
No.
They're not very smart.
Kind of like us, right?
And God calls us sheep as well, because we don't make the smartest
sheep of
decisions.
his pasture.
Yep, that is true.
Yeah.
And so Joseph had to always take care of them, even when they weren't making the smartest decision. And he had to care at the same time, which made him a servant. But now we're back. He's in prison, right? And God has blessed him. And Joseph ends up, once again, getting authority in prison, to where Joseph starts taking care of a lot of the prisoners, to where he's over them, right? And so it was in prison where I feel like God really revealed to Joseph, this is your gift.
Yeah.
Because, he had that glimpse when he was a child where he had the dream where he told his family, like, hey, I one day will rule over you guys and you guys will bow down to me. But I feel like it wasn't until he was in prison where God was like,
begin to let it take shape.
Yep, this is truly the reason why you're here. And it was because 2 of Pharaoh's workers ended up going to prison themselves.
Yeah, he got a chef and a butler. And these guys were in prison because they had dirty dogs. Joseph in prison, he's innocent, and the lady lied about him. And they had the dreams.
Yep, they had the
dreams.
dreams.
And Joseph, had that gift. And God gave him the interpretation to those dreams.
That is true.
He said to one of them, you're going to get out and do okay. And I want you to remember me and let people know about me in here. And he said, the other dude, he said, I got bad news. He said, you're going to get out and you're going to die. And he did.
And literally
and the dude that got out and made it and got restored back into his position in Pharaoh's courts, forgot about Joseph. How does it feel to be forgotten?
Literally, once again.
I mean, like, right? How does it feel?
Once again, literally forgotten once again. Once again, Joseph could either get bitter, angry, because Joseph told the guy, he said, when you get out of here, please tell Pharaoh about me. Tell them about me. The guy totally forgot about me.
Oh, yeah. And really, it wasn't until Pharaoh had a dream, did not understand it, and Pharaoh, we all know a little bit about history and the Pharaohs and how powerful they were. And he had a court, a court of people and all these people that could do all this stuff, and even, back in what we call it black magic stuff and unreal. But nobody could interpret his dream, but he knew it was a significant dream. Pharaoh did. It troubled him like a nightmare recurring. And then the dude that had his dream interpreted, he did that for himself. He's like, this is my chance to look good to Pharaoh. He said, hey, while I was in prison, there was a guy that interpreted my dream, and it worked out. He knew what was going on, and so Pharaoh went and got Joseph.
But once again, that just shows God's timing is the best timing.
Perfect.
Because I feel like if that guy would have told Pharaoh about Joseph right away, Pharaoh would not have valued Joseph the way he did.
No, he didn't have the dream yet.
He would have never had the dream. He would have just seen Joseph as one of his servants. But it wasn't until Pharaoh really needed Joseph. That's when he came right on time. And when Pharaoh went to go get Joseph, Pharaoh told him the dream, right? And immediately God spoke to Joseph, and Joseph told Pharaoh exactly what was coming, and it was a famine.
He said, here's my dream. And long story short, but it was like, here's my dream, things are good, but then they're like, it turns bad and everybody dies. I mean, what kind of dream is that? And Joseph said, because he was not in a position to be telling people, and also he was not in a land that believed in God.
That's true.
The Egyptians didn't believe in God, worship God. And but Joseph was not ashamed of his faith and his relationship with God, and he said, I'll go pray and maybe God will tell me. Joseph wanted them to know, and I feel like this is important for all of us. It's not me. It's not you. It's not you. It's God.
It's God.
And Joseph, like some people, we're too quick to take the credit. Let's just be honest.
That's true.
I've been guilty of that. And it's not me. It's not about you. It's not about me. It's all about him. And Joseph said, hey, I'll go pray and see if God will tell me the answer to this. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. But I'll let you know. And Pharaoh said, okay, you go. And it allowed him, which was unheard of, to pray to his God. And Joseph came back with the answer and said, hey, we're going to have 7 years where it's prosperity. I mean, we're going to blow this place up, man. It's going to be better than it's ever been. And Pharaoh's like, cool. He said, but wait. After that 7 years, there's another 7 years that's going to come like the world has never seen. We call that a famine. And and that's that part that was the nightmare for Pharaoh. So he did listen to Joseph, because you're talking about extreme famine where people die, livestock die, rivers dry up, fishing, which is a major trade. I mean, you're talking about, no food. People, you're talking about thousands and thousands of people dying. And Joseph said, during this 7 years, we got to prepare. And Pharaoh saw God's hand in Joseph's life. And he said, okay, this is unheard of. I'm going to bring you into the palace. And he said, you're going to be over everybody and everything except me. And I need you to take care of this. So you think about it. Joseph went from the pit to prison to the palace. And that didn't happen Now, here's what we want you to understand. That didn't happen in a year.
It didn't, and that
No,
was the
how long?
craziest thing, bro. Because like
13 years.
Because I was reading, it said Joseph didn't come in front of Pharaoh until he was like 30.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
Yeah, it's like it was a long time. It was like 13 to 15 years.
That's a very long time.
And here Joseph is. He's like, what have I done? And the next thing he knows, he's in the palace. It's only God that can take us to the palace.
Mm-hmm.
It's only God that can deliver us from the pit, help us get through the struggles, the prisons of life.
That's true.
To ultimately get to the palace. And Joseph got there, he initiated a plan.
Mm-hmm.
They did it. They prepared. The famine came.
Yep.
And the known world at that time had to come to Egypt to purchase food, things that they needed for just survival.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? Joseph, it wasn't like, okay, we're running out. These people are just going to have to die. They had enough for everybody because the plan that God gave Joseph and the plan that God gives us, it works.
It worked.
Like, it works every time.
Mm-hmm. And, when it worked, now this is where the story kind of gets a little bit,
Yeah, it gets a little interesting, right?
It's very interesting because Joseph's brothers, the same one that was plotting to kill him and to sell him, they end up needing food as well. So guess where there you go? Egypt.
Yeah.
And this is at a point where
Joseph had no idea.
Not at all.
They're thinking the dude's dead, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're not even thinking about their brother. They're thinking about themselves.
They come back to Egypt, and at this point, Joseph has a lot of authority. God has seen something again in Joseph that people didn't see and has put him in power, right? And so they come in asking for food, right?
Had to ask food from the dude they threw in a pit.
Yep. But
and sold into slavery.
Literally. And the crazy part about it, they could not recognize that was
No, they
Joseph.
didn't recognize that was Joseph. But, maybe it was God. But Joseph recognized them.
Yep, immediately.
Whoa, this was his chance. He had the power to say,
no.
Hey, man, we're about to strap you up. We're going to whip you. We're going to behead you.
Yep.
We're going to get this was his chance. This was his chance not to just rock the boat, but sink their ship, man.
That is true.
And it was his chance. I mean, somebody's done you wrong? What do we want to do? We want to get even.
That is true.
I don't want to get even. I want to get ahead of you, man. You hit me once, I'll hit you twice. And this was Joseph's chance.
Yep, this was.
And I feel like a lot of us are in those positions sometimes where it's our chance.
Yep.
And Joseph didn't take it.
Yep, he didn't. But
unreal.
At the same time, I could see where Joseph, like, he was maybe just a tiny bit bitter because what he did to them is like he asked them a couple of questions. He said, "You guys have a younger brother?" Just out of nowhere.
Yeah, this time he knew there was he had a younger brother he never got to see. Yeah.
He was like, "So who are you guys? Do you guys have a dad?" They're like, "Yeah, we have a dad. He's back home with our younger brother and the rest of our family." And he was like, "Oh, really?" And then so he ends up like sending them back home to go get the younger brother, but he keeps one of the brothers in Egypt.
Yeah, like a hostage.
Yeah, and like a hostage.
Yeah, and then he hid like they were thieves. He hid some stuff in there. They got arrested to get everybody back there again. Yeah, he had a little fun with it.
He did,
maybe
right? And this was his little get back to them, right? But really, it wasn't until like the brothers. So like once they got back home, right? They told their dad, was Jacob. He was like, yeah. So there's a man
great
over
patriarch of God. Jacob had great faith in God.
Yep.
Yeah.
They tell their dad, they were like, yeah, there's a man over there that he said he would only give us grain and food if we bring back our younger brother Benjamin. And Jacob looks at them.
Dad done lost one.
No.
He's like, no way.
I'm not sending Benjamin back with you guys. I've already lost one. If I lose this one, I'm gonna die.
Yeah.
I'm gonna die and go to the grave. And they have to convince him over and over until eventually he's all like, okay, you guys can take Benjamin. But a lot of the brothers promised the dad, like, if we do lose Benjamin, you can kill our own kids and our whole family.
Yeah.
That just shows how serious Jacob was about his
serious
children.
times. Yeah.
And so they end up taking Benjamin back, right? But when they take Benjamin back, Joseph, as soon as he sees Benjamin, he loves Benjamin. But there were times when, he would look at his brothers and he would cry.
Oh, yeah.
And that was that hurt inside.
Yeah, that was that hurt, man.
Yeah.
He knows what them dudes did to him.
That bitterness and that hurt inside us. So he would always disappear for a little bit and go cry and then come back, right? But it wasn't until, like, they left the second time, right, where he hid something in Benjamin's
Made him look like thieves.
Yeah, he did.
The younger one.
And so they ended up coming back to Egypt to speak to Joseph. But this is where the forgiveness comes in. So, what's the name? One of the brothers ends up telling Joseph, like, hey, Joseph, I'm so sorry. We did not even realize we did this.
Oh, yeah, for real, right? They realize Joseph reveals himself to them.
Yep.
And listen, these dudes are like, that's Joseph. They knew what they had done, and they're freaking out, and they humble themselves. And remember that original dream, Joseph, he hit these sheaves of wheat. They bowed down before but that was his brothers. He told them, "You're going to bow down before me." He didn't know. Guess what they did? All these years later, they bowed down before him, humbled themselves, begging for their lives, thinking to themselves, "Hey, I know what I'd do if I was Joseph. I'd kill every one of us for what we did to this dude." Brother apologizes. You know, we can say I'm sorry, but sometimes that don't work. But Joseph didn't. You know, he kept going, like you said, going back here crying. He had to deal with his feelings.
He did.
Sometimes we don't deal with our feelings. You got to do that. We got to process things. In life, you have an option. You know, when something happens, bad happens to you, whatever it is, you have two options: react or respond. Most people react. I react. And what is reaction? That's those blow-ups. It's like shattered glass, man. Everybody gets cut. But responding, even to the most difficult of situations, the Bible gives a picture, you know, of this pressure, like these grapes. They're so beautiful, but they're pressed, and they bring forth that beautiful new wine in the Bible. And it's like, okay, we're being pressed, but yet something great is produced.
That's true.
And so you learn to respond. And Joseph had to process it, but he didn't react. That shattered glass had been more pain and hurt. He's thinking about his dad. He responded, and God allowed him to save the known world, but not only save the known world, to save his own father. And then he brought him into Egypt and gave him like land. I mean, who would do that? Their families, his brother family, and embrace them. And love them.
But the thing that caught my attention the most while I was reading that is at this point right here, where it was in Genesis chapter 45. And so he said this in chapter 5. He says, "Now therefore be not grieved nor angry with yourselves that ye sold me hither, for God did send me before you to preserve life."
Whoa.
And you know, whenever I was thinking about that, that's what hit me. It was like, we should make this podcast episode about forgiveness, because you know, yes, Joseph could have been angry. Joseph could have killed them all. But
who wouldn't be?
But it wasn't until Joseph switched his perspective on things. God put Joseph through all those different seasons in the valleys to switch his perspective. Because, you know, being young, I feel like Joseph was a very angry person when he was younger. But it wasn't until God put him through those valleys that changed his perspective. And I feel like that's what forgiveness truly is. It's just a change on perspective on things.
That's right. Yeah, forgiveness isn't like, we get the idea, I forgive, not letting them off the hook. What they did with me was wrong. Well, okay, hold on. You're right, what they did was wrong. What Joseph's brothers did was wrong. But forgiveness isn't just letting somebody off the hook. Actually, God is the designer and the creator of forgiveness.
True.
And forgiveness isn't for the person that offends me or betrays me. Forgiveness is for me, so that I can move on in my life without bitterness and anger and hurt. And so I can learn how to better respond. So Joseph forgave them. He didn't let them off the hook. That what forgiveness was intended for Joseph. And when we forgive, we go higher.
That's true.
Joseph, think about it. He went higher in life while his brothers went lower.
That's true.
And so forgiveness is something that elevates us, new levels.
That is true.
You know, raises our level of expectancy and our level of blessings. Joseph went higher, brothers went lower, but yet he forgave them. And I love that. He said, guys, God had a plan the whole time. You thought, your little small minds over here, God had a big plan. And he even said this to his brothers. He said, you meant it for harm. He said, yeah, you're trying to do me in. He said, but God, he meant it for good.
He did.
And he forgave them.
He did.
I mean, what a great, to be honest with you, unforgiveness is a prison. And I'm going to tell you something. We imprison ourselves there. And it's all we got to do to come out is push the door open and leave. And that we do that by forgiveness.
Yep. And you know, just to get a little personal into my own life, you know, one of the ways I feel like I have dealt with unforgiveness is really like, even with the people that were involved in my brother's murder, you know, when it happened, you know, I said to myself, like, hey, I forgive these people. But truly, you know, after reading this story, it hit me. I truly have not like fully
a whole nother level, right?
Yeah, there's a whole nother level of forgiveness. But, you know, I've seen like with this change of perspective, you know, it's like God is still working, you know. He's helping me to forgive them. But, you know, all it takes for forgiveness is a change on perspective.
That's
you know?
right. Yeah.
Now I'm looking at it differently. It's kind of like I had to go through that season of my life for God to show me the importance of being humble. And the importance of knowing, like, it could all be gone so quickly.
Life is a vapor.
Yeah, it really is.
Here and then gone.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I'm proud of you for that.
Yes, sir. But, like, I would have never understood that until I read this scripture, and then I seen that part where it just showed, like, forgiveness is truly just a change on perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Look at things differently from a different standpoint and understand, okay, God was working still through that. Because that's what Joseph understood in the end.
Yeah, God brings good out of bad.
Yep.
And only He can do that. We all experience evil. We all experience bad and pain. I get it. But God gets it. But it's God that says, okay, that was bad. It's not that God, we get this idea that God does this stuff. God doesn't. He's not doing this to us. But in this world, things happen.
Yep.
But God said, I'll be with you through it. I'll bring you out of it. And then He says, I can even, like, you change your perspective like you're talking about, and I can bless you as you come out of it and take you to new levels in your life.
Yep. And that's the beauty of God's grace on all of us, to be honest.
It's unexplainable. Really can't even, none of us can really understand it or comprehend it.
That's true, man. But yeah, that's what we wanted to speak about today, guys, the importance of forgiveness. But Joe, so on this podcast, at the end, we always have something called like a to-go plate, where you give them like a
to-go plate, baby.
Yeah, a to-go plate, pretty much some knowledge to give them like at the end. What is something that you want to tell them at home?
Yeah, today we're talking about forgiveness, and I feel like the to-go plate today, man, let's serve it right.
Yep.
Is there somebody in your life you need to forgive? Somebody betrayed you, done you dirty, done you wrong? Somebody hurt you, hurt your family, hurt somebody you know? Can I tell you something? Unforgiveness is a self-imposed prison. Nobody wants to spend their life in prison. In life, you can get bitter or you can get better. So I'm encouraging you today not to react to the bad things that happen to you in your life, but to respond. When we respond, we're allowing God to bring healing into our life, forgiveness into our life, and then blessings to take us to new levels. So if there's someone in your life you need to forgive, I don't even know that you got to go to them. But listen to me today. You got to forgive them. You got to say, God, I'm turning them over to you, and I forgive them. You had to do that in your life.
Yep.
To truly forgive. If you don't forgive, it's like you're stuck in a rut.
Yep.
You're going to get left stuck. Nobody wants to get stuck in a rut, man. You want to get out of that rut. The view is so much better. Life is so much sweeter. And knowing that God's presence is with me is like the best. So I encourage you today, if there's someone you need to forgive, this is the go plate. Let it go.
Let it go.
Let it go. Let go and let God. Man, I'm excited about being with you today.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you, sir. Yes, sir. But thank you guys for watching once again. You guys like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.